All right, everyone, we are now live. The timing was off. I do apologize for that. Unfortunately, for some reason, YouTube tries to default to Central Time when I try to start an event. Just a moment now. I don't want myself in double. That would be very annoying. YouTube tries to put it in Central Time. And then I'm like, well, I'll just bump the time up, and it was wrong. And I'm like, screw it, basically. We got a lot to talk about today. By the way, for those that aren't aware, this is not going to become a daily show sort of thing, but it will be semi-regular. I figure like there are a lot of people in, they're not really live streaming anything at this time of day. Most of it's like, after 5 o'clock, sort of the main slot, a lot of it on the weekends. I don't really care because I don't have a set schedule per se most of the time. So I can, sort of do it randomly, which is pretty funny. We're going to be talking about the REEEEddit shills. Of course, most people call it Reddit. I call it REEEEddit because they a lot. Some of that bullshit. Funny. AOC at the border. I thought that would be funny. I will be, by the way, for anyone just joining, I will be paying attention to live chat some, but not completely because I want to get my point across as well. That seems to be bouncing back and forth between live chat and just ranting. Seems to be a good format. Y'all seem to be enjoying it, so I might as well keep with it. Talking about Trump 2020, his chances, some of my thoughts about what he's accomplished so far. Some of it I've covered before, but, in brief. And then also talking about the Brexit party, Nigel Farage, the possibility of a hard Brexit, among other things. Slow mode is on in chat, which it has to be, because there'll be several thousand people watching. When you get to that point, if there's not a delay on messages, it would just be so fast. It would be impossible. Like literally, it would go up so far every like 10 seconds that I would never even see any messages that I wanted to actually answer. I would have to continuously scroll around, not in real time, and it would basically lag out my my sort of speaking here. By the way, you can clank along. Most of you probably have like coffee or tea or something like that, or at least I hope you do. You can get your own Styxhexenhammer mug too. Link in the description to the merch page on my website. I'm drinking Black Rifle coffee, yes. Still am. I'll probably get more of it. It is more caffeinated than normal coffee, and I do appreciate that because I need it. I need a kick in the ass to get going in the morning, then I just fucking keep going all day. Anyway, we're going to talk first about the REEEEddit shills because apparently there were some on there that had like a big problem yesterday because here's what happened, according to several people. When I made the live show, episode 1 of the Styxhexenhammer show, it quickly shot to the top or something on their videos page or something. I'm not 100% sure how the terminology works on Reddit because I really despise the site. No offense to any of my sort of subscribers that use Reddit. I don't have a problem with you, but Reddit is at large is heavily biased. It's heavily tilted towards liberals. This is an example of a website with an inherent bias. It's not like in some sites they're like, well, we think it's biased. Okay, maybe so. On Reddit, it's fairly explicit. Like the Donald, I guess, was quarantined and may still be. They went on a purging spree and just got rid of a bunch of users and pages that had anything to do with like Trump or fighting censorship or Brexit, stuff like that. This happens commonly on some websites. Reddit is ideologically very, very biased. And so I'm not surprised, but what happened is the video went to the top, right? And then a bunch of people poured in to say, well, you're because the person who posted, I guess, likes the content. Well, this person's a Nazi, they're an extremist, they're far right, and all of this other bullshit. It's like usually they point out, and here's the thing. The people who don't like me often are the kind of people who take Rational Wiki seriously. And it's like apparently one person was taking out of context, based again on Rational Wiki, apparently the tweet that I had made long ago, which was a companion to a video, no less. And I will explain this. For those, anyone watching that's like from the Reddit universe, if you're seeing this live, because it might be posted there already for all I know, let me explain that part of the Rational Wiki claim. What happened is that after I was debating Richard Spencer, like opposing his views from a libertarian perspective, I had my throat jumped down by so many fucking goddamn far leftists that I sarcastically remarked, well, you're going to make me side with the far right here because they're saying, hey, let's speak, let's debate. I'm trying to debate. I'm actually in opposition to his beliefs and questioning them. But then a bunch of leftists pretend that I'm their enemy and don't quite get it. They think I'm platforming hate for debating an ethno-nationalist. And so I said, well, fuck it. I guess I'm going to side with them. It was a tongue-in-cheek remark about censorship. So that's what it is. But if you take it out of context, like everything else Rational Wiki has on me, yeah, maybe I guess you think I'm a Nazi or something, but I don't really fucking care, because if someone takes Rational Wiki seriously, am I really going to be able to convince them using logic and reason and facts? Probably not. So it's a dead issue. So anyway, there were a bunch of people on Reddit that were like, he's a Nazi, he's a Holocaust denier, he's far right, he's an extremist. Like, the only kind of extreme I'm a free speech extremist. Yeah, I believe that people should be able to say what they want to say. I know it's a spooky concept, but, you know, I'm more Ron Paul than Heinrich Himmler, but, you know, these people seem to think that there's no difference between the two. I'll go to chat really briefly here. I have the second computer here. It's great having a 2-computer setup, because then, like, the one I'm recording on won't lag at all. The other one I can just pay attention to chat, and then maybe I look good from the side and see me in profile, I suppose. So you don't get to see much. But yeah, oh yeah, why do you still have 666 in your name? Because that's what people know me as. It became well known. If I change it now, it's just, it wouldn't make any sense. Yeah. No sane person is going to vote for a 70% tax base. Yes, now keep in mind, and leftists try to point this out, and they kind of get it right, but they're also completely wrong. The 70% or whatever that people like AOC or Sanders talk about, that's the marginal rate. That's not the effective tax rate. That's the marginal top tax rate if you're in that bracket. So like for me, part of my income is taxed at little, very little, because it's in a lower margin. Once you start making income past that tax bracket, it goes to a different taxable level. Now for self-employment, you pay an extra 15%. If I were to pay the kind of taxes that AOC or Sanders are talking about, in addition to them keeping the self-employment tax, which I guarantee they would, my effective tax rate would probably be 50% or more. What do I get in return for that? Shitty healthcare that I don't really want, and a forgiveness of student loans that after 2 or 3 years only of my level of income, I would have paid back into the system that entire bit of forgiveness. I wouldn't be able to use that savings each month, that $500 or whatever I pay to the student loan company for anything for me. I'd have to shovel it all into the additional taxes I'm paying, and then some. So I would get literally nothing. Someone in my tax bracket gets nothing out of their plans. That's just the way that it is. Let me go through this a little bit more. It's still hard to keep up with chat, because I mean, it's fucking, you know, over 1,000 people already watching. For those just joining, I will be ranting mainly, but I'll also be doing some basic Q&A, basically. It doesn't look like it's updating the number of people watching now. Let me refresh this on here, actually. Let me see. And also, I should probably mute on my computer's end. Huh. I don't know. Maybe it's just remarkably stable. By the way, YouTube does algorithmically demote live streams now from wrong thinkers like myself, but just to say free thinkers. So, you know, they do that. Cloudflare outage. Don't know anything about that. Yeah, I'm just paying attention to chat for a minute before I launch off. I'll say a few more words maybe about REEEEddit, and then we'll talk about the big news of the day. AOC getting cocksmacked by everyone for making possibly false claims with regards to detention facilities. Spam in chat. I'm a strong Russian man. I come for booty sticks. Yeah. Okay, here's a good question from Clown World Pope Killer. What do you think of QAnon? I do not believe that there is a QAnon in the sense of some deep insider allied with Trump or majesus decency looking out for the Constitution and the Republic. It'd be nice if there were, but I see that as a distraction. There's no evidence in my mind of that. It's a bunch of spooky hoodoo, cold reading stuff. In my opinion, the individual or individuals more likely comprising the QAnon thing are just people that are good at guesswork and have maybe mid-level security clearance 10 years ago. Former intel agents or something like that. That's probably what it is. Somebody with half an idea, probably higher mental state, higher mentality, but ultimately no. There's no person high up in the CIA, some masked agent sitting in a bunker somewhere, making sure that we all know that we're safe and everything's okay. Tom Quinn asks why there's no super chat. Number one, because if I were to enable it, it'd probably get, you know, YouTube will take most of the money. Number two, I'm against the very concept of super chat for the most part. The problem is I like democratized sort of commentary. I like independent content creation and decentralized communication. That to me rewards people for happening to have more expendable income. in a way that I don't really want to. I don't want people to have more of a voice and be more visible and get more of a reaction just because they're paying me $5. It just makes me uncomfortable. That's why I like the totally voluntary nature of the setup I have now. People can donate, they can buy books, they can buy merchandise or something. For the most part, I don't even know who's doing it, and I like that. I like it a lot. I like it not knowing who's giving me the money, and especially the fact that it's thousands of people keeps it more decentralized anyway. No single individual is really sponsoring me at such a level that I would feel beholden to them. Like they would say, like, I have certain beliefs, and so I don't want to get to the point where I feel pressured to like not talk about certain things. Like this morning, making a video on the occult, talking about how I'm still fundamentally satanic. Now, some people jumping down my throat didn't apparently watch the video and don't know what I mean by that. I'm not talking about Satanism, and I'm certainly not talking about devil worship. But some people don't like it. You know, it got down votes. Some people I noticed drop in subscribers right after uploading it. I don't care, though. I don't care if people dislike my views. If I have a strongly held belief in something spiritual or political, I'm going to fucking talk about it, and I don't care how other people react. I never have, and I never will, and I don't want to feel pressured towards caring. 2,000 people currently watching now. Lots of spoons being clanked, I hope. Get your coffee. Tea is okay. Yes, you are allowed to drink tea in these, especially chamomile, because, you know, I'm no hypocrite. Please don't drink English breakfast. How can you even drink that, or Earl Grey? And some of these teas are so fucking weak. You need like 5 fucking tea bags of Earl Grey in order to make it taste like anything other than slightly lemony scented dishwater. I don't get you guys. At least get a couple bags of good black tea or something. Some caffeine in it. It's got a little more robusta flavor. Get some, even some like green tea or something. Again, you gotta have 2 or 3 bags in order for it to be any good, but it's supposedly healthy for you. I don't know. Yeah. Now it's time to comment on Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Occasional Cortex is her best fans call her. So for those of you who are not aware, AOC visited the border, and she did her grandstanding thing where she pouted. And there's also mini AOC now, which is some kid that dresses up like her and mocks her on Twitter and Instagram. It's fucking hilarious. You can look that up. But here's the thing. She went to the border, and I guess she went to one of these, along with other people from Congress, went to one of these facilities, and she's claiming on Twitter that the guards there were acting physically confrontational and sexual towards her. And I'm not seeing any corroboration from any of the other people that were present there at the time. She then made the claim that kids were drinking from toilets, and somebody posted a picture of what she apparently was lying about. What they've got is that they've got potable water supplies. In order to increase the efficiency in the bathrooms, the sinks and toilets are conjoined, but they are not the same thing. Nobody is drinking from toilets in our detention facilities. In fact, they look rather spotless. The fact that they're overcrowded is largely the fault of the Democratic Party incentivizing people from coming here. And according to some people, she was the one being confrontational. She was yelling at and even threatening some of the guards in these facilities, which fits in with her attitude. I can believe that. I do not believe that any detention facility guard, knowing they know who these are, they know these are people in Congress, they are not going to sexually harass a fucking congresswoman in the presence of dozens of other people in Congress. It's just not going to happen. Do you think they want to lose their jobs? But she can't just lose hers from being confrontational, because she's got a job potentially, unless primaried by the Democrats, for life. That's the difference. And she gets a congressional pension even if she gets kicked to the curb. So she still gets, what is it? What's the congressional pension for Cortez? If she resigns tomorrow, keeps her pension, how much does she get per month from then on? It's got to be at least some sort of 4-figure sum, considering she represents an urban district. She'll get that for the rest of her life. It's one of the taxpayers have to keep paying this lunatic. So she went there. And depending on who you ask, either she was harassed by these guards, in the presence of dozens of Congress people, or she was acting in a confrontational manner that fits in with how she has acted with regards to this issue already. The idea of stereotyping ICE agents or border guards or detention facility staff as being like barbaric and uncaring and cold and stuff is part of the one-dimensionality sort of thing that the Democrats have been spewing about this issue all along. And you can see they're taking the lies that she's telling, and they probably are lies, They're extrapolating them to every detention facility and saying, we need an investigation. We need Orange Man bad, impeach Trump. Oh my God, it's inhumane. It's concentration camps. And it's really funny. I'll tell you another thing that I find hilarious. I find it hilarious how there's a scrambling, and this is not just the Democrats. Do not fucking let the Republicans off on this. These people are scrambling to dig apart, to go and find anybody that they possibly can who was a Holocaust survivor or the kid of a Holocaust survivor, or they're just Jewish in general and they were alive in the 40s, to say whether they do or do not agree with AOC calling them concentration camps, the detention facilities on the border. How much fucking more goddamn pandering can you get than to drag that issue out for something that has nothing whatsoever to do with concentration camps, that has to do with temporary detention facilities that are filled and understaffed, primarily because the Democrats have said, come ye, all of you, come one, come all. We're not going to, we don't even want you to be detained at the border. Some of these people are literally now advocating for decriminalizing illegal crossings on the border. Warren, AOC, of course, and some of these others are saying, yeah, if someone comes across the border, no, it shouldn't even be considered a problem. So basically, that's de facto amnesty for literally anyone who can physically walk or be carted across the border. That's basically what it boils down to. There's no other way to put it. It's blanket amnesty in the primordial sense. It's not even like a after the fact amnesty. It's just saying, hey, there is no border there. Border? What papers? We don't even know who you're from. Where you're from. We don't care. That's what AOC wants. It's disgraceful. It's disgraceful that we're tolerating people in Congress who fundamentally have stopped representing any form of American interests. They're paid by American taxpayers. They're not paid by the nation of Mexico or Guatemala or Venezuela. Venezuela couldn't pay them if it tried. Can you imagine if they had to pay AOC's salary, how many bolivars they'd have to dump on her shitty head in the morning? That'd be fucking funny. All right, back to chat a little bit now that I've vented about AOC. Almost 3,000 people now watching live, actually. Very interesting. Who will be president after Trump? Scary thought from Bigfoot Forest. Maybe. Maybe the Democrats will crash and burn so badly in this election that they'll reform, the far left will get shoved to the side, and they'll go back to like party of JFK mode. By the way, the Democrats can do that. They can jettison the entire far left and still win national elections. All they have to do is become palatable to independents and the center-left voters that flocked over to Trump by the hundreds of thousands. If they can do that, yeah, they're still viable. They're more viable. And they can get that corporate money, which I know they love so much. Yeah, we'll take a look at chat here a little bit more. I'm just sort of spacing out, looking at all the comments. It's best if I can bounce back and forth. It would be cool to have other people like on the actual call itself too for like discussion. It's more difficult though because my schedule is so much different from most people's. Most people prefer evening chat. I guess I'd have to find someone from Europe who's like, I don't know, in England or something to do it. But then they'd probably get a knock on the door. Oh, you get a license for that? Got a license for that live stream? Alex Jones 2024. It would be funny if he ran. I mean, he wouldn't win, but you know. Okay, so this is something that I've seen a lot of and know very little about. Thoughts on Medicare's Shekel Squad merge? I don't know. I don't really watch as much of his content anymore. He makes less of it. He only makes a video every other week or so now. I like the dude's content. I don't know anything. I know there's some sort of lawsuit, I think, with some user. I don't know. Yeah. Vox calls for the left to take up arms. This is slightly misleading. It's not really Vox. It's left-wing groups have begun to say, well, we should embrace guns more. I see that as a good thing. I don't see that as a bad thing. Yeah, I absolutely. I'm very pro-gun. If leftists want to own assault rifles or handguns or shotguns, yes, you should go buy guns, definitely. Yeah, I don't care if a person's liberal. I would say that a lot of the Starbucks Marxist crowd probably have never even held a gun, and so they might need remedial like safety courses or something. They don't know how to operate even a revolver, let alone maybe a more modern style of weapon. But yeah, I mean, if they can learn and handle it competently and they're not using it in an aggressive manner, if they want to carry it around defensively because they're afraid of Nazis, go ahead. It's their constitutional right. Even if the premise is bullshit, is that any different really than someone who worries, well, at any given day, the government is going to become tyrannical and I'll have to go in a woods? Well, it's probably not going to happen on any given day, but at least they're buying guns and ammo and stuff. They're exercising their constitutional right. And in fact, I would say responsibility. Yes, people have a responsibility. It shouldn't be not a legal responsibility, but an ethical responsibility to be well armed enough to take up arms in defense of this nation from all enemies, foreign and domestic. If that means a bunch of liberals going out and buying guns, yeah, it's good. They might just train on a 22 first, then, we graduate upwards or something. Do some, more lefty gun cleaning accidents. Well, yeah, but I mean, if you believe in evolution and someone's being dumb with their gun and shoots themselves, okay. Soy boy couldn't handle the recoil. Okay. Styx from Jason X. Do you predict Google will be split into separate, smaller companies? I don't know. It kind of already is. Google, encompasses a lot of sub-companies anyway, like YouTube, for example. YouTube is owned by Google. Google's a sub-company owned by Alphabet. Alphabet's the parent company. Few people everyone knows about Google. It's funny. It's funny when the sub-firm actually is more well-known than the parent firm. Although this is the case, like, CNN is owned by Time Warner, I think, or something like that, some multinational company. It's actually pretty common. Did you know that a lot of those supposedly competing brands of shit that you buy at the store are owned by the same parent firms? Some parent firms literally have products competing with each other. This is common among fast food chains too. Some of those fast food chains, like, isn't the parent company of Burger King the same one that owns Taco Bell or something like that? I know that a couple of the big ones are owned by the same parent company. I can't remember. Alphabet not as catchy as Google. Little longer. Google just sort of made sense. I can remember when Google was considerably less used than Yahoo, and everyone used Yahoo as their search engine, and Google was sort of like the new kid on the block, and people were like, well, that's kind of cool, but it looks a little weird and stuff. I can remember that was when I was in maybe 6th grade or something, around that time. And then within a few years, Yahoo had sort of crashed and burned because of their own problems, and Google sort of stepped up. This is what happens. Firms that are dominant, usually they fuck themselves. Biden is trying to do this as well, by the way. MySpace was dominant. They fucked up, and then Facebook became dominant. Would have been better if MySpace had remained dominant, I think. Yeah, remember Ask Jeeves? Remember, Dogpile? AOL? ICQ? All these things. I can remember all these things. Some good shit. Yeah, now there's 3,200 people watching. All right, let's move on to Trump 2020. Specifically, sort of a recap and just general banter around his chance of winning and so forth. Because Biden is still the front runner and still more likely than not to be the Dem nominee, it's no longer a certain thing. He's already made 2 major gaffes. That reduces the chance, but he's still the front runner. Because Biden is still, in my estimation, likely to be his opponent, I still give Trump a very high chance of being reelected. The thing is, and I've tried to explain this, and this happens in every election, the polls will narrow towards the end and Trump's approval will rise once there's one Democrat he's against. Because there will always be some Democrats, because of the schismatic nature of the Democratic Party, who will not get on board with the nominee. If it's Biden, there will be some leftists who will not vote for him. They won't approve of him, they won't vote for him, they'll stay home, or they'll write in whatever candidate they like, or they'll back an independent or a third-party candidate. Some of them will vote Trump out of spite. This did happen, like when Bernie Sanders was not the nominee the last time around. Most of the Bernie Sanders fans got aboard the Hillary bus. How many of them, though, actually went out and pulled the lever? And how many of them, because they were so despondent, didn't bother to vote? It's more about the turnout in that group than defection. What I believe is that if Biden is the nominee, a lot of the fans of people like Warren and Kamala Harris won't vote for him. Nor, by the way, would I expect the Yang Gang or the Tulsi Gabbard fans to vote for him. I would expect them to stay home or maybe vote Mickey Mouse or something. They should write in my name. They should write in Styxhexenhammer or something like that. That'd be funny. And Styxhexenhammer 0.1% comes in third in Iowa. That'd be funny. People should write me in the Democratic primaries as a joke or something. That'd be funny too. I'm semi-joking about that. I got 15 votes for governor the last time around. Yeah, which, you know, considering I made one YouTube video on the subject and then forgot about it, it's okay. And I wasn't even one of them, so, you know, could have been 16. Damn, I should have voted for myself. That was pretty great. But look at it this way. We've got to wait until Trump has an opponent to truly know what his chances are. And then we've got to pay attention to the debates. Once the third debate is done, we'll probably have a pretty good metric of what's likely to happen. And as the date gets closer, likelihoods become more likely. This far out, it's impossible to tell. We don't even know who he'll be facing. We can get a general guess of the people he's likely to face, but we don't know which one it'll be. It could be that Warren wins. Biden could make another major mistake, fall to 10% support, stop being front runner, and drop out. Biden could literally end up dropping out. He could hemorrhage money. He's lost his main fundraising group. If he loses too much of his fundraising apparatus, his style of corporate campaign will not be able to survive. It's not like Sanders. Sanders is like, well, he's doing the e-begging thing, but ultimately he can run a more bare bones campaign. He's got a lot of unpaid volunteers. He's got a grassroots appeal. Biden doesn't have that. Biden has an old school style campaign. Warren does as well. Warren is more of a corporate campaigner. Kamala Harris, it's not clear yet. Hers is sort of a fusion of the two. And then Buttigieg, I think, is a little bit more on the grassroots side. I think he's got a growing core fan base that really likes him. I think they would get behind Biden if he was the nominee. Just like I think if Buttigieg was the nominee, yes, the Biden fans would be, I think, appeased by that. They'd say, well, he's not quite as centrist as Biden, but he's acceptable. He's a tolerable candidate. Yes, we can deal with this. Again, though, I think there are some third waivers that are like no white male would be allowed. They would never back them, even if they were gay, like Buttigieg is. And I think it's isn't it Booty Judge is actually how you pronounce it, and it's like that's funny too. So fucking who cares? So people talking about Patrick Little, please don't get me started on his goofiness. Yeah, isn't it Booty? I think it's Booty Gig or Booty Judge is actually how you pronounce it. Apparently, it's I can't remember. Someone explained that it's actually a rather like proud family name from some country, but I can't remember what country it is. Unfortunately, it sounds like someone's going to try to mow the lawn at the moment. That could be a little bit of a problem. Yeah. Give me a moment so I can close the other window here, unfortunately. Just a second. I'll be right back. That's not about all. I'm not willing to deal with that. I wanted some nice fresh air, but apparently I'm not allowed to have any. Fucking neighbor mowing their lawn at the moment. Jesus Christ. Fucking crazy. Yeah, do a garden update. I probably will do a garden update tomorrow because I probably won't be doing a live thing. For those that are just joining, recap, first and foremost, I rambled a little bit about REEEEddit, aka Reddit, some of the shills there trying to shill me on apparently the last show like this went to the top of their videos page and people were like saying I was far right and I'm a hateful individual and an extremist, which is bullshit. But I mean, they're basing it on Rational Wiki. Rational Wiki also says that Sargon is like the next Himmler, so I don't really take it seriously. I think most of the political boards there have literally banned their links. It's funny because someone said that BitChute links now are banned sometimes there on Reddit. So it's not exactly an unbiased location. You know what I'm saying? I don't use it. I don't want to use it. I'm a 4chan user. I prefer that. And then, of course, AOC. For those that need a recap of that, she went to the border with some other members of Congress. She's claiming that she was sexually harassed and physically intimidated while there by border agents. I doubt that severely because she was probably never out of the presence of other people in Congress, as well as her own entourage. She's AOC. Meanwhile, other people are claiming she was verbally abusive to the guards. I can believe that because it fits in with how she's been acting over the whole thing. And then with Trump 2020, again, so far nobody has arisen, in my opinion, in my estimation, as an unbiased observer who is not a hard Trump fan. I support him by default because there's no alternative that I can see that's better. As an independent voter, who leans libertarian, who is not on board with all of Trump's belief, and who is not, I'm not a conservative and I'm certainly not a Republican. Trump has a huge advantage because there's no viable alternative. There's no opponent, as far as I can see, that has the wow factor that he has. He gets up, ignites a crowd of 5, 10, 15,000 people effortlessly. He can say whatever the hell he wants and they still cheer. Biden has difficulty, and Sanders at this point, getting 10 people into a room, it seems. And they're the front runners in this race. Elizabeth Warren is about the closest thing to a charismatic front runner that they have. And she's got so much baggage, I just don't think she could make it. I think she would fold against Trump at the first debate. I think Trump would bring up her baggage, and I think no matter how she tries to deflect, he would run rings around her. I think he would destroy her. And then the Democrats will do what the Democrats are best at and say, well, he was trying to be a bully to a strong, empowered woman. And that will make sex a wedge issue like it did in 2016. And the Democrats are too dumb to realize that it backfired then, and it'll backfire now. There's a reason why Trump won among both white and white college-educated female voters. There's a reason for that, because Hillary Clinton ran it into the ground saying magender, magender, magender over and over again. If Warren or if Kamala Harris is the candidate, they will be tempted to do the same thing. The only person up there that's got the minority wedge issue thing potentially to use and refuses to is Buttigieg. He's very smart for doing this. He is gay. He is openly gay. When asked about the possibility of becoming the first openly gay president, he said, we probably had a gay president before anyway. Who cares? Very, very wise of him. I think he's not being taken seriously enough. It's sort of like Julian Castro before he fucked himself in the last debate. Now he's not viable. Same with Gillibrand or Tulsi Gabbard. Yeah, she'd be viable. She could potentially compete against Trump. She's just not taken seriously. They're doing the same thing to Buttigieg. The Voxes and salons keep attacking him. I think the Democrats are going to regret that. Now we'll talk a little bit about Brexit. Now, maybe some British people can weigh in as well in the live chat. I'll rant here for a minute, and then I'll look at the questions and comments a little bit. The Brexit party there is gearing up to become more than just, hey, we want Brexit, give it to us. Apparently, Boris Johnson there is now sort of at the helm, and we'll see what happens. But, I mean, do you really think that any deal that could be struck with the EU will also be palatable to the UK's government, like the House of Commons or whatever? No, probably not. So you'll have a hard Brexit on or around Halloween, probably. And then Farage will probably end up in charge of your nation thereafter. The Brexit party will soar in approval, and things will go crazy, and it'll be a huge paradigm shift. I think that'd be a good thing for the UK. You should be hoping for that. You should be hoping that the wild-haired, slightly chubby dude there fails. Now, I know some people thought I was insulting him when I referenced him before because I didn't know as much about him. I wasn't. I'm aware of the fact that he's considered amusing, but that I guess he's an okay dude. I don't have a problem with him. I just think Nigel Farage is the man for the job. I think Nigel Farage should make it just, make him king or something like that. You might as well dissolve your parliament since it doesn't appear to do any good. They got you into the EU in the first place in part, so you can't really trust them. Just make Nigel Farage crown prince, and then he can run things. And it'd be very funny because he'd be a standard monarch because he'd be drunken and kind of a party boy, and then probably fly his airplane around some more. That'd be really funny. He'd be hang gliding off of Buckingham Palace or something like that. Probably would. Yeah, being pointed by Jane Jan, the Queen has the power to dissolve the Parliament. Yeah, well, I wonder what would happen if that actually did occur. With the British people, maybe British people can weigh in. If the Queen said, fuck Parliament, we're going back to a full monarchy because you people can't govern, what do you think would happen? Protests in the streets, or do you think there'd be jubilation? I don't know. I think some people might be jubilant. From the outside looking in, it looks like that might very well be the case. I can't blame you. I think some people here would unironically love it if Congress were dissolved, considering how unfortunate they are at all times. And just think at least, they're a little bit more accountable, only slightly. Yeah. Styx, do you think there'd be an advantage to having a bipartisan president and vice president? If by that you mean the president and vice president would not necessarily be of the same party, that could work because that's what we do here in Vermont, like the lieutenant governor is separately voted for. In fact, I believe, isn't the lieutenant governor right now a Democrat? I don't even know who our lieutenant governor is. I should probably look that. I should probably know that as a politically connected Vermonter, but fucking, you know, it's Vermont politics. Not exactly of great national importance. Yeah. What about Jeremy Corbyn ever being prime minister? Isn't he basically a commie? Now, that would be something. Congress is useless. Well, they do have one use, slowing everything down, which in the Senate's case is actually the point of a bicameral legislature. They do that job very well. They get an A+ on slowing down legislation, except when it's truly bad, then they vote it through very quickly. Like, you know, giving billions of dollars in aid to other countries that don't need it, bombing people, raising taxes, censoring things. That they agree on very, very much. But yeah, I'm looking at chat at the moment for anyone not aware of that fact, and you know, seeing if there are any cool questions or whatever. Yeah. Oh yeah, here's a weird side of YouTube, sort of. Any thoughts on the coming grand solar minimum and possible mini ice age in the near future? Don't count on it. Predictions about where the weather will go have been wrong so consistently that it's like the only consistency is inconsistency at this point. So I don't really think much about that. I think certainly sunspots and solar activity must have an effect upon the Earth's climatic conditions. But then again, so does CO2. I believe in climate change. I just don't think it's primarily man-made. I think that nature compensates. I don't think that it's an end. I think that there are feedback mechanisms that'll save us. I don't think that planet's going to look like Tatooine in 100 years. You know, call me a conspiracy theorist, but I don't think the end of the world is coming. Because I've been told that it was coming soon for a long time by both religious people and people supposedly very interested in science. And I'm still here. And New York City is still not underwater. And then neither is San Francisco, maybe unfortunately. Okay. By Tim Frame, thoughts on nuclear energy, important. Nuclear energy is a necessary evil. I understand that there are now designs of plants that are considerably better than old ones, and everyone always rambles about thorium, which is like, okay, I mean, we can have that debate separately maybe. I understand nuclear energy in modern plants isn't as dangerous as it was in Chernobyl or something like that. But look at where some of the plants are located on, you know, major rivers that could flood, shorelines that could experience a tsunami, seismic zones that could experience a major earthquake. They are still ticking time bombs, even if safety precautions have been upped. That's just what I believe. Now, we can't get rid of nuclear energy. I'm not like AOC. I'm not like, oh, I'm so afraid of it, we need to abolish it immediately. No, because it is a good thing. It provides a huge amount of energy at much greater efficiency than any of the fossil fuels. I do believe, though, that generally it should be a stand-in while we try to move as much as possible towards as efficient as possible wind and solar and tidal energy. Even hydroelectric has problems. You dam up the river, you potentially change the ecosystem entirely. That, again, has its own problems as well. And advances have been made, make it more efficient, more safe and stuff. But the dam breaks and then 100,000 people die. It's not too good a day. Meanwhile, at the same time, oil is still a necessary evil as well. The big thing isn't even the efficiency of extracting energy, it's storing it. The big thing is battery technology, which they're fervently working towards. There was some article a couple of years ago that some chemical extracted from rhubarb leaves might be the answer. Like it might be a more potent store of energy than what they typically use in batteries. I don't remember if that went anywhere. I know that computing has taken several steps forward in efficiency as well. That's the other thing. We can reduce the amount of electricity that we need. The amount of energy we consume through increases in efficiency could be cut in half probably quite easily. That would really save us a lot of fucking time and effort extracting energy and make the fossil fuel that's there last longer, and nuclear wouldn't need to be as prevalent. You'd need fewer solar panels to power a home or a car or whatever. I think increasing efficiency is a good idea. And it's also natural. The free market will fix it. Don't worry about it. Government doesn't need to really get involved. Give awards to people who have good ideas. Give them scientific grants to develop technology. Other than that, let the free market take care of the rest. Still looking at a chat, of course. We're close to 4,000 live watching. Cold fusion is on the rise. It is not yet possible to utilize cold fusion. The Germans are trying. But what they've developed isn't a true fusion reactor, if I remember correctly. Might be wrong. But I mean, it could take 100 years for them to develop it. I think we should look. The sun gives us a virtually inexhaustible supply of energy anyway. It's just that the efficiency of gaining it and storing it is very low right now. If we increase both of those just by a few points, yes, the world could be run on solar energy, essentially, for most purposes. There's still, like, heavy machinery would still need fossil fuel. There are some uses for that, but we'd need a lot less of it. Arguably, the fossil, like if with oil, arguably it'd be created as fast as we would use it under such conditions. It could be done. It's funny when people say, well, they go full primitivist. Like this is something I disagree with Vargon. I'll get into this for a minute. He says, well, solar still requires energy to make it, and we should just be primitivistic and I don't know, use wood pellet stoves or something, or just, you know, live in tents. I disagree. With an increase in technology, it is fully possible to use solar energy to create more solar energy, so to speak. And with efficiency and recycling the same materials that are used, like the idea that solar panels have to be created the way they are currently, and that there will never be a shift in that technology towards different materials potentially being used is ludicrous. That's never happened in the history of technology, certainly post-industrial technology. Is there any particular reason we couldn't potentially design some sort of energy source using the sun that doesn't have to use rare earth minerals? I don't see any reason why not. You know, what about those towers that use reflectors to aim at a giant tower of liquid sodium to extract energy? Maybe something like that can be utilized. Maybe that technology will take off. Yeah, it'd be funny though if liberals were allowed to develop solar more, they would try to tax the sun. Oh, you live in a sunnier state, we're going to make you pay extra money because, you know, it's not cold and dreary. I guess Vermonters wouldn't have to pay as much. You know, solar power. If solar power can be efficient enough here to justify its use on buildings, which it is, otherwise people wouldn't be investing in it in a private marketplace. It's no longer even really subsidized that much, unfortunately, by the state. If we can do it here, trust me, you people in Texas or something can easily make solar work. There are so many solar fields on this side of Vermont now. You wouldn't believe it. There's like 5 major development projects between here and Middlebury alone, several up north of that. I think they built, the largest is near Middlebury and Virgins, I believe, if I remember, and it powers like 2,000 or 3,000 homes. It's huge. I mean, it's right next to the road. You can see it. It's this huge field of solar panels. Now, what I think is they should subsidize to put it on people's homes, put it on existing structures. Because the problem is neighbors mowing their front lawn now. The problem is that when you take up a field, that's a field that can't be used for something else. You should let trees and shrubs grow in the field to sequester carbon and also produce things. And it's a nice habitat. You should do that and then put the solar panels on existing structures that take up floor space, so to speak. They take up space. That's what I think should be done. Solar is a fantasy. Everyone needs to go nuke. No, solar is not a fantasy. It's already in wide use. Even in places that don't get as much sun as here, let alone a state like Vermont, that's a little bit sunnier than some parts of Scandinavia or something, or Texas. Solar already is efficient enough to utilize. It's just it needs to be more efficient and more clean. That's all you need to do. Yeah, solar panels raise your taxable home value. Yeah, and then they shouldn't. That's the whole point. Government gets in the way of such advents. Government wants to tax everything. Fuck the government. We'd probably all be using nothing but solar energy if it weren't for the government getting in the way and making it so expensive with the regulatory process. Look, a large proportion, a very significant double-digit proportion of all the cost of installing a home solar system, it's government. It's taxes and regulations that the company levies against you because they have to pay it to the state and federal government. I think it was like 30% of the cost. So if you got rid of that, the lower middle class would start putting up solar panels and they'd pay themselves off way, way easier. And they'd be developed a lot quicker because there'd be more demand for them. So these companies would have more money to invest in better technology. Be great for everyone. You want to solve climate change? Unbridle the free market. That's all you have to do. But climate change. Oh, the CO2 level is rising. Well, it doesn't have to. If that's what you're concerned about, it doesn't have to. But no, they'll never do that because then they can't make money off of carbon taxes and stupid shit like that. Styx, why do you think they are afraid, libs are afraid of facts? Because, you know, the truth is that you don't need as much government. You don't need as much regulation. Like the average person can live their life in the absence of 90% of what the government does, and they'll be fine. Most of the laws we have don't need to exist. Most of the regulations don't need to exist. If you believe in centrality and socialism and things like that, you don't want that to be the case. You want a strangulated bureaucratic system so you can graft more money off of the good, honest people of the world. Styx, why are you still a goth? Kind of. Not really, though. I don't go around in a cloak, or, well, mostly. Let's just say that around Halloween, I finally look normal and nobody looks at me funny. I find that hilarious. I love the attention. Like when little old ladies stare at me funny, I find that funny, actually. Like hilarious. I do it on purpose at this point. Solar plants are cooking birds midair, Styx. I don't give a fuck. Okay, well then you put nets below it and you take the fried roasted birds and give it to the homeless, and you can feed the homeless with tasty avian species. I fail to see the problem. Literally killing two birds with one stone. Jake says, Styx, what motivates you to YouTube? Depends on which era. Originally it was boredom, and then it was just amusement, and now it's, I feel like it helps change the world a little bit. When I'm doing my socio-political commentary, when I'm talking about spirituality and stuff, and also it makes me a living. And it's still fucking fun. Yeah, YouTube's great. I just hope that YouTube doesn't keep changing in the wrong direction. I like YouTube. I have a problem with YouTube. It's just that if YouTube's going to make it harder to attract a new audience or make content without getting like banned, you say the wrong thing, yeah, I'm going to branch out into other things. But I mean, I'm never going to stop making videos. Even if YouTube went defunct tomorrow, I'd still be on BitChute. I'd still be on Dailymotion. I'd take DTube back up probably at that point. Yeah, who cares? And I have that fucking button on my wall for a reason. Styx pretends not to care about birds. I care about the birds. They're tasty. Well, some of them are. Turkey, by the way, the most overrated meat ever. Some people are like, oh, it's so great. Turkey is a turkey sandwich. Fuck turkey. The only way in which turkey is any good is if you stuff it with stuffing and you cook it with a nice gravy and seasonings and with a bunch of root vegetables and onion and stuff like for Thanksgiving meal. That's how turkey is good. Otherwise, if you don't add any other flavoring to it, it doesn't taste like anything. It's like, is this really meat or is it textured cardboard? You could probably take textured cardboard, form it into a turkey, cook it with a little bit of meat sauce, and nobody would tell the difference. I don't get people sometimes. Turkey's so great. Chicken is most overrated. I'm not much of a chicken eater either. It's good in some ways. Like, I'm not really a big fried chicken fan. I don't eat tendies because, you know, I don't need those. Some people have a fucking tendy vendor. It's like if you're like neck beers and like basement dweller, you know, stuff. You're a loser. I'm not targeting anyone specific. If you're on the right, you have a tendy vendor. If you're on the left, it vends like Soylent or kale or something like that. Stereotyping time. It's funny. Pheasant is best. I don't know. I've never had pheasant, I don't think. But yeah, recapping for those joining, and I'll probably end the stream in 10 minutes or something like that, I suppose. First, to read it, Reddit Shills complaining about me supposedly being hateful and extreme because my videos apparently got posted there and went to the top the other day of several boards. Talking about AOC's claims. She was claiming that kids were drinking out of toilets at the detention facilities, and that's not true. It's just that the toilets and sinks are built together for efficiency's sake. The potable water is on top, and the toilet is below. You're not drinking out of the toilet, unless you're like really, really short and can't reach the top part. I guess then, I mean, you could probably drink. Those toilets are so spotless, you probably could drink out of them. Probably be perfectly safe, but I don't think that the kids are that desperate. And if it's overcrowded, by the way, pointed this out. If it's overcrowded, it's the fault of people like AOC. It's the fault of the Democrats for saying, hey, come one, come all. We're not going to do any. If you come here, you can't be deported. You can only be detained temporarily. You can walk across. You won't be, nobody will try to stop you. And then you can go to a sanctuary city and you know, pretend that you're already a citizen. It's gotten to the point where I'm surprised that anyone tries to legally immigrate to the United States, since it's apparently illegally immigrating does not actually result in any adverse things happening to you at this point. The only risk is on the trek here. Now, the Democrats are also responsible for about half of these girls being sexually assaulted on the way here, whether they're minors or not. Whether they're 10 or 100 years old, half of these girls are being sexually assaulted and a good quarter are being raped on the way here. Other people are being turned into drug mules or killed on the way. Democrats own that problem. They're the ones that caused that issue. They and the neocons helping them. The Ted Cruz is, oddly enough, the pretend populist that he is. It's funny because he actually does look presentable with a beard. I'll give him that. He looks better than when he was butterfaced Ted Cruz there without the beard. He looked weird without it. Now he looks sort of like an exiled Jedi past his prime or something. Before he just looked weird, like a pile of butter shoved in a suit that happened to be a senator. And just think Beto O'Rourke was the cringier one and still is and always will be. Oh my God, that dude's crash and burn. And then we had Trump 2020. He's got a huge advantage because he's probably going to be running against Biden or Warren at this point. And Sanders, you know, he could drop dead tomorrow for all we know. And the dude's 77 years old, so give it a break, Bernie. At some point, you got to retire. And then we got the Brexit. The Brexit party is gearing up for war, basically, in the UK. They're going to contest everything. They've actually got a platform now other than, hey, Brexit is a good idea. So, yeah, it's definitely a fun day. There's a lot to talk about. I think the Reddit part's my favorite. Just it's funny when people who have an ideological axe to grind, they like say weird shit and it's provably untrue. But anyone who's not already familiar with your content has no way of verifying that. So they just take it seriously because they see it on Reddit. And that's the whole thing. Like Peter Norway and people like that like to do this sort of thing. They try to prevent the growth of people that they happen to ideologically dislike by lying about them as often as possible. The idea is to keep people who don't know anything about that person from bothering to investigate further and learn for themselves that it is a lie that's coming from ideological far leftists. Usually people who have like commie avatars, they have like, you know, their pronouns listed on Twitter, which is hilarious, stuff like that. By the way, it happens among people on the right as well. I've seen it before. The left does not have a monopoly when it comes to that sort of behavior. It's just more likely at the moment because more of the independent content creators happen to be on the so-called right. In my case, I'm not even a conservative, so it doesn't really apply. So yeah, to any Reddit people watching, Rational Wiki is not a legitimate source of information. There are even pages on Reddit that have banned it from being posted. If that's true, that's concerning. Why would you ban them? Well, it's the same shit that you get on YouTube. It just happens to be on a different site. What are you afraid of? Very funny. And go back to chat here for a minute. Styx, what do you think about term limits for Congress? I have a mixed feeling about this, and I'll tell you why. If a person is doing a really good job, why should they randomly have to leave that job as long as they're fit for it? The thing is, my hope is that generally the voters make informed decisions. Now, that's obviously not usually the case, but that's how it should work. I don't know. There's really no, it doesn't matter. Term limits aren't going to work because you're just replacing one set of morons with another set of morons generally anyway. If you can vote in one moron, if a bunch of morons can get elected now, why force them out? Better the devil you know, I suppose. It doesn't even really make a difference. Yeah, like term limits on the presidency have really helped that office. That's why we replace dumbass Bush with dumbass Obama. We finally get a decent president and the legacy media jumps down his throat every day. Trump, of course, I'm talking about. Do you think universal suffrage is a mistake? No, I think the ability of people to vote isn't a mistake. The thing is, artificially limiting which groups of morons are allowed to vote isn't going to help it. You know, the population by and large is comprised of people who are self-serving most of the time and who will vote based on their own self-interest, whatever that happens to be. It doesn't really matter, therefore. The best thing you can do is have a strong constitutional state limiting the corruption of the government that can be given by the people to it, essentially. Being a congressman should be a second job. Yeah, you could say that. It used to be in the past. Most people in Congress, they had their farms or whatever, and they came together once in a while to pass a few laws. That was the more informal Enlightenment era approach. That sort of gets cast aside by the industrial era. Yeah. Somebody asking me, I believe if I believe in aliens. Yeah, I believe in extraterrestrials. I don't believe that they habitually visit this planet, though. Look, by all means, if there's a race of beings out there capable of traversing the galaxy, which they would presumably have to do, they're not going to be too interested in a backwards planet like this. They'll say, oh, yeah, leave them alone. They'd probably look at this planet, if they know about us at all, they'd probably look at this planet as nothing more than an interesting zoo where primitive creatures pretend to be intelligent. That's basically what they would do. I've also posited that our world might be surrounded by essentially a death shroud, and they leave us alone because all the pollen and bacteria and stuff here render it uninhabitable. Or maybe they're used to a non-oxidizing atmosphere or something like that. And they're like, fuck that planet. I don't even know how life can exist down there. Fuck, they've got oxygen in their atmosphere. Jesus Christ. There's water vapor. Oh, my God. The cake is a lie. Yeah. I'm just looking through chat at the moment and just looking what people may be asking. Styx, want to chill on the 4th, fireworks and stuff. I live 20 minutes from Vermont. I don't usually do meetup stuff because of the risk involved. No offense. I'm not saying like, you know, you're not trustworthy or something, but I don't really do that for the most part. It's like I don't even like getting like packages in the mail from, you know, fans usually. I appreciate everything that I'm sent. Don't get me wrong. Like people have sent me books and letters and stuff, but there is always technically a risk involved in opening them, and it puts others at risk that are around me. So I generally ask the people, unless I've already given them the go ahead, like they've asked me beforehand, I know where it's coming from, what it's going to be. That's an exception sometimes. Or if it's coming from a company, that's a little bit different. Like someone like with the Black Rifle Coffee Company sending me coffee. Okay, it's coming from their official headquarters. Probably not an explosive. Or if I already know the person, like there are a handful of people that have sent me things already that I've known since before I was well known in many cases. I trust them to send me mail, but otherwise generally not. Generally, I prefer if it's a letter, it's a little different, I suppose. But you know, somebody could send me a glitter bomb too. That would suck. Oh yeah, let me fucking vacuum my room for the next 30 years. That's all I need, trust me. By the way, that's a proper form of protest. Like when people are like doing violence, like Antifa should just start sending glitter to people, like glitter letters. It'll be, you can't, you know, you're not gonna get arrested for sending someone a packet of glitter. Number one, and also doesn't kill anybody, so it's better than giving someone a brain hemorrhage. Why don't they do that? Then they would be considered funny and nobody would have a problem with them. Yeah, I'll be here for just another minute or something. Is the populist worldwide movement a good indicator of Trump's re-election with the paradigm shift? The fact that populism is on the rise, yeah, a little bit. That's sort of an Americanized version of populism, more hyper-capitalistic. Trump is not a racist, for example. He's not an ethno-nationalist. Some people keep saying that he is. They also think he's a homophobe, a sexist, and everything else under the sun, because Orange Man bad. Yeah, I think that it does favor him after a fashion. The natural kickback is more globalistic sentiment on the left, but that could be temporary. They could end up embracing the idea of populism too. A la a pre-sellout Bernie Sanders or something. Being asked, people ask me this all the time, would you go on the Joe Rogan podcast? Yeah, I'd go on the Joe Rogan podcast. I find the dude funny. I would have to be asked, though. They would have to ask me. I'm not going to, you know, harass them and say, hey, can I go on your podcast? Hey, can I go on your podcast? I don't really do that. I don't really ask other people to go on their shows. I just wait for them to approach me. I figure if they want me on their show, they want me to fucking make an appearance or something, they're going to message me and do it on Twitter most easily. I will, by the way, this is the thing. I don't know if this will happen on YouTube because I don't know if they'll still have live streaming by then because, again, Scuttlebutt says they might get rid of live streaming completely. And they're certainly getting rid of the ability to have multi-person live streaming, which would defeat what I'm saying. I would like to have guests on this next election like I did the last time, like I had Razorfist V, Mark Collette, and Brittany Venti on last time around, each for about 15, 20 minutes. I'd like to do that again. And I think I might even shorten up those slots more and try to get like 6 or 7 people aboard. other content creators. I'm going to look into that. But again, I've got to study, like maybe somebody can DM me on Twitter. Is there anywhere where YouTube has confirmed that it's getting rid of Hangouts? And if so, what's the timeline involved? If you can find something declarative and objective on that, please do DM it to me, because that'll help me to plan. Because otherwise, if that happens, I'm going to need to use, if BitChute allows it, I would use BitChute preferentially. DTube does have streaming. It does have a streaming service. I don't know if it's multi-person. I'd have to get some fucking program. The thing is, Google makes it easy. Here's the worst thing. A major company makes a product. It's really good. It's really easy, like Skype before Microsoft got it, and then they ruin it. They fuck it up. Fucking hate it. Get average viewers as guests. Might surprise you. Yes, absolutely. That's possible too. But I mean, the thing is, it would have to be people who have made content so that I know sort of about them, so that I know I can vouch for who they actually are. Otherwise, what if I bring someone aboard? They're like, hey, I want to go on your show. I'm like, okay, get on the video call. I bring them aboard, then they start chanting racial slurs as part of an attempt to get me banned off YouTube, or at least to fuck up the stream so I have to start it all over again and delete it. That could happen. No, I'm not willing to take the risk. Because then other average viewers get inconvenienced. They have to wait 10 minutes while I make another fucking stream because of a bunch of shills. Someone asking if I like Leonard Skinner. Yeah, of course. Yeah, Angel Dust confirmed. But yeah, I think I'll, yeah, it's been about an hour or something, right? I think I'll end the stream now, but it's been a lot of fun, again, as with yesterday. I will be doing this semi-regularly, and it will usually be, I'm going to try to lock down a definite time. It'll probably be a little bit later than it was today. I'm thinking somewhere between 10:30 and noon or 12:30 Eastern time, maybe twice a week. I'll try to do it on set days, but with me, keeping a schedule is very, very difficult for me. Number one, I literally lose track of the days of the week because I don't have really a schedule to go by. Number two, I tend to get involved in all sorts of weird side projects, and that eats up some of my time. Like right now, today, other big thing of the day is I have to make the cover for the next edited work that I have completed. I've done it. I've got the forward. It's all in proper format. I just got to do the cover and up the files. Then I got to start the next work. There's a million things to do. I got a shit ton of work to do outside as well. Might have to wait till later for some of it because it's like 85 degrees and sunny right now. So it's like, going outside is pleasant. That's not too hot. But once you start doing, heavier work, you get a little sweaty. I hate the feeling of sweat on my face because I've got long hair. It gives me the creeps. I can't deal with it. I like to keep my face clean. It's a terrible feeling. The idea of greasy hair, ugh. It's like that's, otherwise I would never even shower again if it weren't for the fact that greasy hair sucks. It's like the rest of me, I'm like, fuck it, who cares? Occasionally I'll just sit out in the rain for 10 minutes. I'll be clean, that's fine, because, I'm not a pussy like some people. But anyway, yeah, that's the second episode of the Styxhexenhammer show. This will become probably a bi-weekly sort of thing. I wanted to introduce live streaming because YouTube rewards you disproportionately for streaming because it's longer form, and also it's the only way I can really get new subscribers at this point. Not going to get it from standalone video anymore. YouTube has algorithmically demoted it to all hell, so I might as well give people what they want. It'd be a great time, and I can do more and more Q&A. I would like to get other people occasionally aboard as part of group calls as well. We'll have guests and stuff. I'm not good at interviewing, but I am good at chatting with people. I'll just turn the show over to them. This is your fucking host for the day. Your host for the day, Joe Rogan. That'd be funny. And then it's just somebody in a Joe Rogan mask, smoking weed the whole time, probably. That's about all. Peace out.